Congratulations, you've made it to week 7, and we are cutting back some of the work, and I know you guys are going to be excited about that, so hang in there with us. We're doing the best that we can, and we love to see all the work that's coming back from you guys. A quick note to moms and dads, remember, late assignments can be turned in at any time. Please do not think that just because you've missed an assignment that you can't go back and turn it in. It is important for you to go back and turn it in. It's okay. You don't lose any points. This is how we're keeping track of all the students and the work that they're doing. So if they've done an assignment, go ahead and turn it in. We'd appreciate that very much. So we're going to be working on our 7th week English Language Arts reading packet. So you're going to notice there's 3 lines just like always. But what we've done is we've cut it back to 1 story. So you're going to be sending 3 pictures in. The first picture is going to be the story page where you've marked it up. You've done your highlighting, you've circled your answers, and you've found the evidence in the text that we need to see that you've done. You also will be turning in page 1 for questions and page 2 for questions. So we're sending in 3 pictures, but 1 for each page. Okay, so here's Friday's story, How Silk is Made. I'm going to read the story for you, and then we will work through the questions. So remember, our paragraphs are labeled A, B, C, and D, and that's going to be important for answering our questions. So this is also going to be Friday's story. If you have, for some reason, a different story in your packet, let us know. Everybody should only have Friday. How silk is made. Smooth silk has always been the most luxurious and fanciest of fabric types. In the ancient world, only the richest people, like the great emperors of China, could afford the expensive material. Silk is very expensive because of how difficult it is to make. Where does silk come from? Paragraph B. Silk is made by silkworms. Silkworms grow on mulberry trees. These worms only eat mulberry leaves. To make silk, you need to have a lot of mulberry trees. Paragraph C. Silkworms eat mulberry leaves until they are full. Then they begin to make cocoons. Cocoons are protective shells that they live in while they change into moths. Silkworms make their cocoons by spitting out silk and then wrapping it around themselves. Farmers then come and collect all the cocoons from the mulberry trees. They put the cocoons in hot water. They boil the cocoons for 5 minutes. Then they remove the cocoons from the water and let them dry out. Paragraph E. Next, a farmer picks up a cocoon and uses a small needle to pick the skinny and small strands of silk from the cocoon. Once a strand is on the needle, the farmer spins the needle to unwind the silk. This is very difficult and takes a lot of time. Each silk strand is very thin and must be joined with other threads to make silk. It takes about 2,500 silkworms to make a single pound of raw silk. Finally, all the silk strands are then weaved together to make silk fabric. Clothing is then made from the silk fabric. It is a very long task, but it makes something very beautiful. All right, so before we start our written portion, you're going to need to make sure you have a yellow highlighter and a pencil, and as always, Miss Steely's going to use a black marker so that you can read her handwriting much easier on the computer screen. We're going to go through all the questions just like usual, and if you're following along, you will have this whole paper, this whole assignment completed with me. And when you're finished, mom or dad or grandma or auntie or uncle, whoever's with you, can quickly send a picture. All right. So our first one is a little bit different than we've done previously. This one wants us to identify the steps for how silk is made. So first things first, because we have to follow the arrows, I'm going to put numbers in my boxes. That way when I go and figure out the steps for making silk, I can kind of keep track. So the first step I'm going to do is go ahead and number my boxes. Now I've got 1, 2, 3, and I'm going to jump down here and follow this arrow for number 4, 5, and 6. So we're going to have to go find the steps in our story, but they gave us step 1, so we need to find this sentence first. Silkworms eat mulberry leaves until they are full, because we need something that comes after that. Alright, here we are. Silkworms eat mulberry leaves until they're full in paragraph C. Okay, we need to find the next bit of evidence that tells us how silk is made. So first, the silkworms eat mulberry leaves. What do you think should be our second one? Read the next sentence and see if you can figure it out. I'm putting a number 1 there so that I will remember where I'm at. If you read the second sentence, then they begin to make cocoons, I think that would be a good step, because without the cocoons we would not have silk, would we? So I'm going to put make cocoons. Alright, so I have number 2. So now I need to go and I need to find what comes after they make cocoons. So we're going to turn our paper back over. We've got number 1 and number 2. Now read the next couple sentences and see if you can find what comes third. I shall read it for you. Cocoons are protective shells that they live in while they change into moths. Silkworms make their cocoons by spitting out silk and then wrapping it around themselves. Does that really give us something that we could write for how silk is made, do you think? That really doesn't tell us how. It tells us what the caterpillars or the silkworms turn into. They turn into moths, but it doesn't really tell us how they get the silk yet, does it? Let's go ahead and read paragraph D and see if we can find a clue in the next paragraph. Farmers then come and collect all of the cocoons from the mulberry trees. They put the cocoons in hot water. They boil the cocoons for 5 minutes. Then they remove the cocoons from the water and let them dry out. Oh, there's a lot of good information in that paragraph, so I'm going to let you think about it. Go ahead and mark numbers 3 and 4 if you can find them. All right. Miss Steely she's going to put her 4 over here. Oops, I'm sorry. We need to do 3 first. I'm going to mark 3 and 4. Farmers come out and collect the cocoons from the mulberry trees. So we're going to put for number 3, farmers collect cocoons. Alright, so we've got farmers collect the cocoons. All right, now let's go back and see if we can figure out what comes for number 4. Miss Celia wrote that in the wrong place. They put the cocoons in hot water and they boil the cocoons for 5 minutes. Now, we could break this up into lots of steps, but we got to remember our very last step is to make the clothing, right? So I think I'm going to choose they boil the cocoons for number 4. Okay? So remember, we're going to number 4, so we're going to follow our numbers on our paper. So the farmers boil the cocoons. Yep, we got to turn our paper back over, I know. We're getting lots of practice on identifying text and evidence, aren't we? Alright, so they boil the cocoon for 5 minutes and then they remove the cocoons from the water and let them dry out. Now we need 2 more steps to get us to making material. So we could use that piece of evidence if we wanted to, but I'm going to actually skip that piece of evidence. I'm going to come back down here. I think this is a more important piece of evidence. The farmer picks the cocoon and uses a small needle to pick the skinny and small strands of silk from the cocoon. Oh my goodness, it sounds like thread, doesn't it? If he's got to use a little needle and get the tiny skinny strands of silk into that needle, and then he's going to do what? He's going to unwind the silk. So can you imagine sitting there with a needle and just twisting and twisting and twisting and twisting to get each little thread out of the cocoon? And do you remember how many it took to make some silk? 2,500 cocoons. So the poor little farmer is sitting there with 2,500 cocoons and he's twisting with a little itty bitty needle. So I think that's a pretty important piece of information. So that is what I'm going to mark as number 5. And I'm going to put the farmer unthreads the cocoon. Alright, sorry, I have to turn my paper so I can write on it for you guys. So hopefully you guys can see that okay. So, oh, and Miss Steely's got a typo here. Don't copy her. Even teachers make mistakes sometimes. Alright, number 6. We need the last step for making silk. Okay, now some of you might have moms or dads or grandmas who have a silk shirt. Okay, so they're going to be down here. Finally, all the silk strands are weaved together to make silk fabric. So I'm going to use that for my number 6. And I'm going to write silk strands are weaved together to make fabric. Alright. Uh-oh. My dot police aren't here to catch me. Alright. Very good. So we have 6 steps for how silk is made. Now you're going to need your yellow highlighter, crayon, marker, whatever it is you have. And if you don't have yellow, just use a different color. It's okay. We'll know that. But the important piece is we're going to see that you've used a color on the front of your paper. So the color of the sentence in paragraph E that summarizes the step of how farmers make silk. So it's looking for one sentence about how the farmers make silk in E. So we got to go back here to E. And we need to reread it probably and figure out which sentence tells us how the farmer makes silk. Next, a farmer picks up a cocoon and uses a small needle to pick the skinny and small strands of silk from the cocoon. Oh my goodness. Do you think that could be the right sentence? Let's read a few more and double check, but that was a pretty good sentence, don't you think? Once a strand on the needle, the farmer spins the needle to unwind the silk. Ooh, that's a good one too. What do you think? This is a very difficult and takes a lot of time. Each silk strand is very thin and must be joined with other threads to make silk, and it takes about 2,500 silkworms to make a single pound of raw silk. Oh my goodness. So, what do you think? We have two pretty good sentences. I would say either this sentence, a farmer picks up a cocoon and uses a small needle to pick the skinny and small strands of silk from the cocoon. Or you could probably use the farmer spins the needle to unwind the silk. I am probably going to go with the first sentence. I kind of like that one. If you use the second one, it's okay if you're working on your own or just checking your work. Alright, so now that we've done this, we're going to go ahead and highlight this and put a little check mark that we've done it. Explain what you think this sentence means. So, what do I think this sentence means? A farmer picks up a cocoon and uses a small needle to pick the skinny and small strands of thread of silk from the cocoon. What does that mean? My goodness. If there's a farmer and he's getting the strands of silk from a cocoon, remember the cocoon's probably not very big. I know our cocoons from class were hard to see, but they weren't very big. And he has to sit there with a needle. Do you think that's an easy job or a hard job? I would say it's probably a pretty hard job. And he's got lots of it to do, especially if he's got to have 2,500 worms to make anything. So not only does he have to have a lot of worms, he's got a lot of work. So what do you think? Do you think farming for silk is easy or hard? I think it's pretty hard. But we need to put this in our own sentence. So I think I'm going to say farmers have to work by hand to collect silk, and it's a hard job. So remember, our sentence stems, we're going to use part of our sentence for our sentence stems. So this sentence means farmers work hard to collect thread from cocoons. It is hard work. Okay, so that would be my sentence. Your sentence can be a little bit different. That's okay. Just remember that a sentence is going to have a capital letter, it's going to end with punctuation, and it's going to be more than 7 words. Alright, number 4. Write one word to summarize each of the following paragraphs. Paragraph C and paragraph D. Alright, so if we came up here to paragraph C, do you see a text feature in that paragraph? Not one that we can use very quickly, do you? But let me ask you another question. Do you see a word that repeats multiple times? The same word used over and over in the sentence. I see a couple of them that we could use. I see silkworm is used twice, and I see cocoons used a couple times. So because we're talking about silkworms making silk, I'm going to choose silkworms. So we're on number 4, and I'm writing silkworms on the line. Okay? Alrighty. And I'm going to mark that as number 4. And in paragraph D, farmers then come and collect all of the cocoons. Uh-oh. I see a word that's repeated lots of times. Do you? I see the word cocoons, cocoons, cocoons. I think maybe we should use that word. That might be a good word because it's repeated so frequently in the story. All right, here we go. All right, number 5. Underline 3 important words in the text. We need 3. Can you help me find 3? I'll give you a minute. You read through the story really quick or look it over and see if you can find 3 words that you feel are important to this story. All right, I found 3 words. Have you found your 3 words yet? I picked the word silk, and the reason I picked silk was this is a story about how it is made, so it's an important word to the story. And what makes the silk is the silkworm. So I chose silkworm for my second word. And who picks the cocoon and boils it and then has to do all that really hard work to get the silk? The farmers do. So I'm going to pick silk, silkworms, and farmers, and I'm going to label them with number 5 so that when you take a picture, I can see which 3 words you chose to be important in your story. Summarize how silk is made. Now, Miss Seeley kind of likes this question because guess what? We've already done all the work up here in question 1. We just need to turn it into a couple other sentences. So basically, we're going to say the same thing again, but we've got to make sure it's in complete sentences this time. So, what is the first step for making silkworms? And remember, our sentence stem is usually the end of the sentence. Silk is made by. All right, so I've got my sentence stem written, and I'm going to give you the opportunity to put these in your own sentences. So, for example, a beginning sentence might be, silk is made by silkworms that eat lots of mulberry leaves and make a cocoon, period. Farmers collect the cocoon and boil them and unthread them, period. When all that is completed, silk is weaved together to make fabric. You do not have to use those sentences. You can create your own. But I just wanted to give you an example. You will probably need more than 2 sentences for answering question 6. But I'm going to let you work on answering that one all by yourself because we've done all the work for it in question 1. Now, I just want to say for question 7, I've had a lot of you write some very, very good questions. So we're going to do this one again, and remember, we're writing 3 questions. So the first step I'm going to do is I'm going to number 1, 2, and 3 to help remind myself that I'm writing 3 questions. So what would be a good question that you could answer after reading this article? Think about it. I know one right off the bat, but I'm not going to start with that one. You might want to start with that one, and that's okay, because I'm going to let you find one all by yourself. But I'm going to ask this harder question, and let's see if you can come up with some harder questions like this. How do farmers make silk? Okay. I put mine on line 3 because you're going to do 1 and 2 all on your own. But I wanted to briefly discuss question 3. How do farmers make silk? You know, that question's a little bit more than yes or no, isn't it? I cannot answer yes or no to that question. I have to give you lots of details from the story. This is a higher order thinking question. So my challenge for you is to try to think up of questions that do not require a yes or no answer. See if you can come up with a question that makes someone have to think about the question and how they would answer it. Go ahead and hit pause if you need a few moments to finish this task. Number 8, find luxurious in the text. Use the context clues to explain what the word means. Circle the word in the text that are clues to the meaning of the word. So, number 8. Luxurious. So that you can see the word a little bit better, I'm gonna highlight the word. Okay, there's my word luxurious. It's a text feature because it's a vocabulary word that's underlined. But now we need to circle the words around it that make it so we can understand this word. So remember, when we're looking for clues to understanding unknown words, we read the sentence before and after. Smooth silk has always been the most luxurious and fanciest of fabric types. In the ancient world, only the richest people, like the great emperors of China, could afford the expensive material. So what does luxurious mean, do you think? Say, it was really close to the word, wasn't it? Did you find the answer? Make sure you circle the answer. I'll give you a moment to try it on your own, and then I'll help you along. I chose fanciest of fabric types. Is that what you chose? That is luxurious. That means it was something super special not everybody had. And still not everybody does. It's still considered a luxurious fabric. Okay, now let's go back and remember that was number 8. I'm going to go ahead and put number 8 up here. Oops. So there's 2 parts to this. And a mistake that some of my friends have been making is you're not using complete sentences. So make sure that for your vocabulary, you are using complete sentences. That means you have a capital letter and you're ending in punctuation, and you're also telling me what this word means. So what this word means is going to be a part of our sentence when we're answering it. So, luxurious means fancy. Okay? If it is shorter sentence for these, I'm okay with that, but make sure you have a capital letter and punctuation, okay? Number 9, you're looking for the word strands. We're going to do the same thing, only with a different vocabulary word. And strands is already highlighted because we use that. So I'm not going to highlight it again, but we still need to find and circle the words that will explain what strands are. So I'll give you a moment to practice the skills what we've been practicing all year. And you try to circle the words that tell me what strands means. I know I read the beginning of the sentence. In fact, I read the whole highlighted sentence. It says, next, a farmer picks up a cocoon and uses a small needle to pick the skinny and small strands of silk from the cocoon. What words did you pick? Because I would pick skinny and small. So remember, again, we're using a complete sentence. Strands means, and you finish the sentence. I'm giving you the sentence stem. Go ahead and hit pause if you need an extra moment to complete that sentence. Number 10. Do you think the author wrote this to explain something, describe something, or answer a question? Now, I'm going to go back to one of my text features that we've talked about. We need to go back to the title. Look at your title. Is there a hint in the title? How is silk made? What is this right here? That's your clue. Are you explaining something, describing something, or are you answering a question? Alright, if you chose answering a question, you are correct. Now, when you come down here, make sure you circle your prompt. And now we're going to answer the question, what is the author trying to answer? So we need to put that in a complete sentence. The author is trying to answer the question, how is silk made? Okay. Oops. Alright, if you followed along today, I want to say thank you. Make sure you go back over your paper and check for capital letters and punctuation. You can go ahead and turn this in as soon as you've finished with it. I just want you to know that Miss Killingsworth and I miss you all very much and hope you're doing very well. We hope that cutting back on the amount of work for the next couple weeks is going to help you out tremendously. We'll continue to try to post videos. Just know that we do have technical issues just like anybody else, and the teachers are working really hard all the time. So if you ever have any questions or any problems, please get a hold of Miss Killingsworth or myself, and we will do everything we can to help you. And for those of you watching this all the way through to the end, keep a lookout for Monday. You have a special delivery coming. Bye, guys.